Awesome.
Yeah, let me pull it up on my phone. Hello, metaphysical Black women. I'm happy to be with you tonight. We are going to talk about the metaphysics of Jingle Jangle. Now, if you have not seen Jingle Jangle, it's okay. It's okay. We can still talk about it because, it's just really a story of, let me fix you. A story of someone who got hurt and got stuck and stayed stuck for a long time until they believed better. So, tonight I have the metaphysical practitioner, Tina Brinkley.
Yes. I got to get used to that, right? I got to get used to it.
I was going to say Reverend, but I'm not going to do that to you just yet. I'm going to give you some time with that.
Go give me some time. I'll get used to it. I really will.
Did you get your paperwork back?
No, I haven't gotten it yet, but they said it takes like 6 weeks or something like that. Sometimes 4 or 6 weeks.
Any day.
Yeah. So yeah, it's coming.
It's coming. Mm-hmm. So we have Tina Brinkley Potts. She's a regular on our Thursday nights. I'm Reverend Dr. Brooke Brimm. If you don't know who I am, I haven't been. I apologize. I have not been around as much as I normally am in this group. Doesn't mean that I don't love you guys. My pastor transitioned, and I needed to take some time to just heal and just take time for myself. My mother came to visit me for a month. So I was just, I've been kind of busy doing things. And so I haven't spent enough time in this group. I'm not going to say enough time. I haven't spent as much time because enough is what it is. And I have popped in with you guys. And I don't know if you caught the pre-election night and then election day prayer vigil that I did. And I think it was necessary and it worked out pretty good. I was, so I don't know if you caught some of that. Tonight we are going to be talking about the metaphysics of Jingle Jangle. I watched it and I am just in love with it. And I've watched it about 3 or 4 times. And I play the soundtrack in the when I'm in the shower and when I'm in the car. And there's 2 songs on that soundtrack that are my new favorites. In addition to Ricky Dillard has 2 new albums out. One that's a live album of all his greatest hits, and then one that is like a house music of his greatest hits. So,
okay.
These are my latest jams. The Jingle Jangle and the Ricky Dillard have like been on nonstop play this week for me. So I'm gonna let Tina go ahead and start because she's the one who said, "Hey, let's do the metaphysics of Jingle Jangle." So I was like, "Cool." So I'm gonna go ahead and let her start because it was so many things. And my husband was like saying to my son, "See, son, when they do the metaphysical movies, they're always a great hit." Because it was a lot of things. But go ahead.
Always a great hit. I think the first part was that I love is how the movie starts and he's booming, right? Like they love his place. Everybody's hanging out there. It's like the whole town just loved him, right? And the thing that was just, I was like, something's going to happen. I mean, you already know it because he was putting so much weight on that one invention. It was going to make him rich. It was going to do all of these things. And it wasn't like he was giving credit for all of the abundance that he already had in his life. Right? Like he had the perfect family, the perfect support of the community. He had all of those things. And then when it was taken away from him and he focused on that, then look at how everything else in his life started to meet that one thing.
Yes.
And how many times do we do that? Like we focus on that thing that's going wrong, and then everything else in our life starts to go wrong, right? Like everything starts to go wrong.
Yes.
And it isn't until you shake yourself out of it that you change your dynamic. So I love that part stayed true for the movie. That was really good how they did that.
And it really is about, I was listening to our talk that we had over maybe 18 months ago that you reposted in the group here. And I was like, boy, that was a good talk. But again, it really was about that vibration. And it's like sometimes we hold the vibration of winner based on the kind of things that we put in our lives and the things that we think will be, or the things that we think we have, or the titles, you know, the greatest inventor of the world, that was his title or something like that, you know? And so we use these titles and these labels and things that we think we're going to be, things we invested ourselves in, and we hold that vibration of winner based on things. And then if we lose those things, and if you're basing everything on those external things outside of you, when you lose them, then what vibration do you hold? You hold the vibration of loser.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just it was, you know, that movie was crystal clear about how, you know, we have to be in touch with something within us. And that is where the winner is. We have to understand that we came here as winners. God created us. The very fact that we're here and made in that image and likeness of God means that we are winners. And whatever we experience in this journey called life is just that, it's an experience. And it's all a winning experience.
All a winning experience. I mean, because even look when the guy stole everything from him.
Yeah.
Right? Like he was winning. You're talking about for a long time, for 25, I think it was 25 years. 30 years. 30 years, he literally took one of the greatest inventor of all time, one of his inventions every single year, and was making millions off of it.
Yeah, and it wasn't enough because his identity, that's so funny, because I was saying to my husband, you would think that after 30 years of just making millions of doing this, he would just be okay if he didn't have anything left. But his whole identity, he kept saying it over and over again, the thief. His whole identity was, first of all, embedded in something that was false and a lie.
Yeah.
Because then he got the title greatest tour maker of the year every year because he stole someone else's inventions. And you would think that he would just say, hey, I got a good run. I didn't earn it, you know, and I got a good run. I'm going to do this and I'm out. But his whole identity was built on a lie.
And when he went back to his true identity of being an inventor who did not succeed.
Yes.
Because when he went back to try to do his own and it failed and everybody walked out on him, it took him back to that person of, and so that's when the transmutation was switching back. Yeah. And that's the, you know, people don't understand, like where I tell, you know, my clients about haters, like, listen, you can transform all the energy a hater sends to you into your good if you stay on your game and if you do the work. Because as long as you keep your vibration high, whatever energy they're sending your way is going to create your momentum, but you can't go down into it. The second you go down into it, then now they flipped it back on you. And that's what he did, right? Like he was the one, he pulled his energy, took his prized possession with that little dude, right? Yeah. Took that, so he took his energy.
Right. Ooh, yeah.
It took his
Now,
energy.
yes, I love it. I love it. Now, today I was all day. I've been running around, running to go back to get my computer, doing this, doing that, everything. And all day since this morning, since my morning worship this morning, it's been on my heart to put on Instagram. And, I put these little notes on Instagram, and I haven't done it. That the reason why, and I'm going to do it when we get off of here, hopefully I'll remember. But I've been all day, it's been on my heart. The reason why we feel stagnant, when people feel stagnant, is because they are not obeying and they're not saying yes to their assignment.
Yes. Yes.
So people
Our
do
video 18 months ago, right?
What did I say there?
That video we did 18 months ago, right?
Yes.
I mean, we were talking about, because it was the energy of waiting, keep
Yes.
putting that thing off.
Yes.
And I mean, my gosh, Brooke, I mean, I'm a prime example of that, because again, metaphysical practitioner. I'm writing my thesis now, right, on the journey to doctorate.
Yeah.
And how long have I been putting that off? Like, I was running from that assignment, like, no. Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, though, about 4 years ago, I could probably go trace it back to our inboxes on Facebook. I had a vision that you and I will be working on, like a metaphysical conference or something.
Wow.
And something like that. And so I just sent, I didn't know what to do with it. But I just sent you a text and said, do you work on conferences? And I think you said yeah, or something like that. And I didn't go any further because I was like, it's super weird. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say this to her because it's super weird. But I felt very strong in that vision. And I don't know when or what, but now that I see what you're doing, I feel it feels closer now. It feels closer. It doesn't feel as weird.
I know, because I was running from that right there. I used to tell, what was my favorite word, Brooke? Oh no, I cuss too much to want to do this.
Right, exactly. And I tell you, I've been I've been all of those places. Did I ever tell you, like, when I first got my ministerial license, my hip went out? Like, my hip went completely out. I couldn't hardly walk because I couldn't believe what I had done to myself. Like, I was so enjoying the study and doing all the work and having a good time, and I was just so into it and just doing all the things, listening to Dr. Masters, reading all the books. I was just so excited. And then the paper came in the mail. And I looked at it and it said Reverend. And I had all these preconceived notions about reverends and judgments.
Yes.
More than preconceived notions, I had judgments.
Yes.
Lots and lots of judgments about reverends.
Yes.
And that's interesting because I was just thinking about, I'm going to get to that. So I had all these judgments about reverends. And when I realized that I had made myself one, it really made me very weird about my future. And so my hip went out because your hip relates to fear of the future and that kind of thing. And I had to get it worked on with the masseuse and yoga therapy and all of this. And it started coming to me and I was like, okay, this is because I'm not embracing. I was saying yes along in the process, but then when I got the paper, I wanted to say no. So I was deeply conflicted. Now, let me say something else today about my judgments of reverends and ministers and that kind of thing. So today, I have this group, this other group, this vegan group. As the weeks have gone on with Corona, and if you've watched these lives, you'll see me say it went, it's 3,000. Oh, now it's 10,000. Okay, now it's up to 115,000.
Yes.
It's gotten so big. And along the way, I have I've been following God, and I know the vision, and I have very kind of strict rules about what the vision is. And everybody, wants to come in, not everybody, but people want to come in and make it, obviously 115,000 people came in and love it. But then there's other people who come in and want to make it what they want to make it.
Yeah.
So I'm clear because I've, been connected. I'm clear about what the vision needs to be, how it needs to be. It's my vision. I'm clear. I'm clear. And so what we don't talk about in there, it's about, I call it a vegan food group. We don't talk about health. We don't talk about vegan lifestyle. We don't talk about animal rights, none of that. We only talk about where we all meet, and that is with cooking plant-based food. So I was doing a video, and I said something about margarine. And I said on there, well, margarine is not, the most healthy, because like if you're eating plant-based, it's a real big struggle between, butter has animals. It's just something. Margarine is just a thing. You have to, with everything in terms of your health, you have to decide what your philosophy is, and that's it. Nobody else can tell you. You look it up and you make a decision. It's give and takes in this world. People are trying to sell you all kinds of things. You decide what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Anyway, I made a remark about margarine. Then I followed it up with, hey, this is not a health group. This is a food group. You make your own decisions about it. So somebody wrote a comment, and one of the enforcers, for moderators came in and took the comment down. And then they showed me later that the person was like, oh, you took this down about me saying that margarine is not healthy. You're doing bad things to Black people because you're not telling them that. God is watching you, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, wow.
And I thought to myself, now that's interesting, because I'm sure that this person has a philosophy that they are 100% sure is in line with God. And I also have a vision that I'm 100% sure is in line with God. And that made me really think, so that when you look at someone else's vision, project, thing that they're doing, and you might find fault with it, or you feel in judgment of it, that you shouldn't, because they're following their vision.
All right. That's
and
exactly
it is their download from God. And if
and our judgments too, Brooke, I mean, when you think about it, our judgments are based on our own vibration. So everybody's truth, what, like a lot of times, and I talk to this a lot about with my kids. I'm like, hey, listen, I know we want to think that everything is black and white. I said, but truth is truly based on vibration. I said, I could put 10 people in the room and all 10 are vibrating at a different level.
But here's what I was going to say. Here's the most important part of what I was going to say about that. If you see somebody else's vision and it looks like they're doing it not quite right, when you are in judgment of it, and you feel like it's like me looking at other ministers, other reverends, and saying, I don't like that, because this why, and it is a vibration when you get into that. But at the same time, that vibration has a purpose, because the reason why you are feeling discontent with what you see someone else is doing is because you're now convicted to do your thing. So a problem has arisen in your soul that's not quite how I want to do it. You know what I mean? I don't think that serves. And so you need to, instead of focusing all your energy and staying in that negative vibration of and those judgments, you need to say, well, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? Well, so that doesn't feel good to me. What does feel good to me? I mean, that's why I have this Metaphysical Black Women's group right now. I was in that other group, that you're now in.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not going to say what it was, but you're in it now. And I felt like some of the things were racist. I didn't like some of the stuff that was going on in there, and it was bothering me. And it bothered me, and I would get into these long, things until, it bothered me to the point where I had to say, well, what am I going to do? What feels good to me? What feels safe? What feels powerful? You know what I mean? I can't just stay here and be in judgment of that and just stay there. The reason why I feel discontent with what they're doing is because it's their vision. It's their thing. It's a thing God gave them, and they're working it the way they're supposed to. And it has a purpose. And if you feel discontent with it, then that means it worked in your life at that time. And now it's time for you to say, well, if this doesn't feel good, what feels good? Mm-hmm. And then be obedient and do it. Because the disobedience comes in people just complaining and complaining and complaining and complaining about what somebody else is doing with the download that they got.
And that's a lot. That's a lot of people right there.
That's a lot of people. And if we was on our JOB, this world would be a different place. The obedience is to say, okay, that doesn't feel good, and that's okay. What feels good, and how can I do what feels good? Because if it gets to the point, because lots of people will see something and say, yeah, that didn't sit well with me, and they keep it moving. But if it doesn't feel well to you, but you can't let it go, and you just get angry and you're all tied up in knots, it's because you have a mission in it.
You have to investigate that.
Yeah, you have a calling deep inside.
Yeah. In my I have a certification called Limitless Coaching Certification, teaching people how to coach, right? Mm-hmm. And teaching them how to coach using neuroscience and metaphysics, right? Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things, we have a whole section on judgments and biases. Right? Mm-hmm. And the reason we have a whole section on that, because it really is your beliefs being shown back to you. Mm-hmm. So when you have a strong feeling about something in the opposite direction, right? I'm talking about in the negative direction. Yes. That is when you are pushing against something, mm-hmm. and you really have taken your focus off of what is your truth.
Right.
You allow their truth to be more important than your truth.
Right. And it's that feeling of discontentment has a purpose.
It has a purpose. So you will investigate it. But
it's not for you to stay in it too long.
No.
Some people stay in that vibration.
Yes.
For too long. They sit in jealousy and watch other people for years and years and years. They sit in jealousy and anger and resentment, and never take action, never investigate, what should I do? How can I fix this? What can if I feel like that's so wrong, what can I do that would make it better?
And then that becomes like
when I say it, I don't mean their thing, I mean the world.
Absolutely. And then it becomes like your vibratory signature. Mm-hmm. Like there are some people who have are missing so many of their blessings because they are living in that lower vibration. Yeah. I think Reverend Michael Beckwith says that the pain will push until the passion pulls, right? Mm-hmm. And what he means by that is that you are going to keep seeing pain and judgment and stuff you don't like with everybody else until you start facing your calling. Right. Because then when you start living in your passion, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you first started saying this, you were very clear about my vision is clear. I know it was downloaded to me. So no matter what's coming your way, you're like, I'm okay with it because that's not mine. That's their version, right? Mm-hmm. Because now that passion has set in and you are very clear and the clarity is there. You don't have clarity when you're in the lower level vibrations.
Right.
And so I love what you were just saying, because there is also the other side of the spectrum where a lot of people are teaching spiritual bypassing, and where they're like, oh no, you just got to think positive thoughts. You just got to think positive thoughts.
Right.
Well, that doesn't work. And that's why when you think positive thoughts, you can have all of these wonderful things in your life, but then you got this thing that never comes to meet the rest of it. And that is simply because you've never met it where it was, right, and then started processing it up. You got to own it.
Because the Bible says there's a time for everything.
Yes.
And so you have to work at being comfortable with everything. It doesn't mean you sit there, because you're on a journey. You're walking through it. But where's my affirmation is I allow it. So if it's something big, like 115K group, and I'm trying to bite off and chew and trying to do all the things, then I allow it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's some drama, I allow it, because it's going to make me get better. If I made a mistake, I allow it. If somebody wants to give me a gift, I allow it. If they want to take something from me, I allow it, because it's a journey. And all of it. And it doesn't mean you sit you sit in it and you live it and it becomes a part of your being. You don't let it become a part of your being. You say, what is this? Like this glass. It's blue. I can see through it. It had water in it. Now it's going, what should I do now? Fill it up with more water, or throw it out, or break it? What should I do? It's the evaluation. And then you go forth. And then if you're constantly in touch with your source, then you don't have to worry about what your next steps are. Stay present, and God presents those next steps, and it just keeps coming. And sometimes it's, I was telling my husband the other day, my pastor, Dr. Barbara, she was my pastor for 20 years. And no matter, way before I went to school, I would be there working at the church in some capacity. Then I went to school, and I would be watching from Texas and Florida online, and she still was my pastor. And everything I did in my ministry, in the back of my mind, I would be like, what would Dr. Barbara do? What did she experience? What would she say? Blah, 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 blah. And for most of the 20 years, she didn't even know I was alive. Wow. We only became friends the last few months of her life, just this year.
Really?
Really.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have.
But what a gift. What a gift.
What a gift. I've emailed her. She's emailed me back, but she couldn't always place who I was. We've had, I've made earrings for her. She forget, I see her here. She forget. But in March, I went to her home to set her up so that she could be on like what we're doing. And that's when we became friends. Oh, wow. That's when she had heard about me. She asked me to be over the women's ministry based on all the stuff, but it didn't solidify until March. Wow. And wow. Isn't that something? Yeah.
That is something. Wow.
And so, but even beyond all of that, she was my mentor, even though she didn't know I was alive. But, and so I have had to, I was telling my husband, part of me has felt like I'm floating around without being able to like email her or call her or anything, or even just to listen to a sermon and gather something, or just being in her presence. You would get so much healing. And on top of that happening with her, this new ministry, if you will, of the food, which is not new because I've been
doing it,
cooking food at retreats. And I realized after my first retreat that the food was a big part of the ministry, and it was a part of the nurturing, and it was important. But I was like, when I'm 75, I'll deal with that. No, really. I mean, I can remember saying that at a retreat, like, oh, when I, I'll do that, when I'm 75, about 7. But here it is now, and it's a real ministry, and I have to work at it and all these things. And so I'm saying all that to say, you really have to stay connected to source when you don't know where you're being led. Like, you think you know, and that's the same thing that happened with what was his name? Geronimus.
Yeah.
Same thing that happened with Geronimus. He thought that he knew that. I mean, it was like the Little Rascals. When I get my back pension, he waited and waited for this piece to come in the mail. When it finally came, he felt like that was his ticket to life, and all was well, and he was going to do this thing. And so he really thought that he knew exactly where his life was going. And that's what I'm saying about me. I really felt like I knew where my ministry was going and what I was doing and all of that. And now I'm really just having to focus on being present.
Yeah.
And if you instead, like Geronimus, take 30 years where you're just over and over saying, like, I thought this was what I was going to do, an inventor. I thought my life would be more, but it's not. So I'm just going to say I'm nothing anymore. And people, it may look like a depiction and that it's just a thing on TV, but we watch people live this life over and over again. And they, it's the person at the post office who's angry for no reason. Yeah. You just walk up and ask for stamps and they got a hella attitude. And we like, damn, you make $60,000 a year. What is the problem?
Right. Right.
The problem is, though, that's not where you belong. Mm-hmm. And the problem is you gave up being obedient to your passion. And now you're somewhere mad doing other people a disservice in the post office, because you could be in that same job happy if you were working your passion on the side, but you've given completely up. And
if you was allowing that job to be a vehicle to what you really wanted to do. Like if that job was the investor for your passion, then, and if just switching the way you look at it, can change everything. Yeah. And look at think about the Black woman's role, the one who was the male person. My goodness. Yeah. Look at all of the rejection she did not take on. Yeah. She knew that it was meant for them to be together. Yeah. They had the commonalities between losing, being widows. Right, losing spouses, and she let him have his version, and she just kept going on her merry way because she knew what was going to happen, and she just stayed close to the vision. Mm-hmm. And then he finally saw.
Yes,
he finally saw. But it was people who, and his granddaughter, they had to remind him.
They had to remind him, and it was like, wow, poor guy, 30 years of what you sacrifice, your experience with your daughter, you're something new. Your life is a crazy thing. Mm-hmm. It literally can do amazing things if you let it. Yep. Take you crazy places. Like I've heard you talk about, you had a cleaning business. And you had a home healthcare business, business, and you had, what I mean? You're a business, and now you're a metaphysical minister. It's so many things. Like the same thing with me. I did retail for 10 years. I did statistics, data management. I did, I'm in advertising now. I'm a minister. Now I'm a chef. You know what I mean? I'm a yoga instructor. Life can do amazing things.
When you let it.
And
letting it though, right, is releasing not just your own judgment, but everybody else's. Because just like you just said, my gosh, Brooke, we could have been like, oh, well, wait a minute, I'm supposed to stick in this.
Yes.
Right? Not letting this be the thing that's going to propel me into the next thing. That God led me the way that he wanted me to go. So I would have these experiences when I'm sitting in this position.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can decide which way it goes, but most of the time we're taking everybody else's viewpoint and deciding, okay, if I leave this job, if I quit this job, then, you know, everybody's going to think I'm a failure, or I'm this, or I'm that. And, you know, that's just not the way.
I mean, I went to school. I went to, got my master's in counseling and nearly a second master's in educational research. I said I wanted to be a researcher. I went and got a job as a researcher. I worked there for 4 years. I was miserable. I loved the work, but the people, you know, it was so many things. And so I left that job and I joined my husband. And everybody thought I was a secretary. They still think I'm like a secretary. Now they just think I'm the person who collects the checks.
That's good though. Yeah.
You know, the person they're afraid of, that just going to bill them and collect the checks.
Right. Go call.
Trying to be, you know, but it's been like 15 years. And I could have been like, you know, I mean, at first I was like, you know, I'm not going to ever be able to go back to my career because I'm working here and people think I'm a secretary. What am I going to do? Am I ruining my career? It's not about that. It's about your life. It's about your being present with what makes you happy. I wanted to be with my daughters. I wanted to spend time with my family. The family business was a good idea. It's made us lots of money. You know, I haven't gone back to a job since 2005. Yeah. So it's a good thing. But you know, you can get yourself twisted up in ego things. Yeah. I just let them go ahead and think I'm a secretary.
Yeah, that part, like I don't even care what people think as far as,
I know. I know I'm getting those checks and I'm cashing them and we having a good time and life is good. And I don't like to, you know, I don't get caught up in it. And then they see that I'm like this whole nother personality on the internet and things like that. And they're like, well, what is that? What, you know, they're always trying to get at like, what are you doing over on Instagram? And did I see you cooking on the I saw, one of them said to me, I saw you on, come up on my feed in the vegan soul food group. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, I do that too. Back to these checks.
But you know what? I think it's the labels, right?
Yeah.
We gotta give everything a label.
Yes. We gotta box everybody in.
Yeah, we gotta box everybody in. And it was funny, you picked up that blue cup, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In that certification class I was telling you about, I literally pick up a pen and I say, hey, listen, somebody named this green. Yeah. I could have named it Tina. Yeah. And forever, this color that you're calling green, you would be calling Tina because somebody named it. Yeah. And I said, and it is because we start working towards the labels that we forget everything else.
Yes. And we start thinking we are
the
labels. And then if that label goes away, like greatest event of all time, I'm nobody now.
And that's especially moms, right? Yeah. Like we get so wrapped up in that label, mother label.
Now, even, at the age of 42, I found out that I had wrapped myself up in the label of daughter in a way that I didn't realize. Like my father loved me the way nobody else on the earth loved me. Not saying other people didn't love me, but that way that he loved me, no one else on the earth loved me. And when he started transitioning the last 4 months of his life, I started thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to be anybody's daughter. I'm not going to be a little baby, you know, what is it, a daddy's girl.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Who am I going, I'm not going to be his daughter.
Yes.
You know,
yes, I was a daddy's girl, so I get it.
Yeah, and then just imagine like if you, and you can relate to this because if you were, you know, I can't, but you can. If you were once, you know, a wife And then I'm not his wife anymore.
Not his wife anymore. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not his wife anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
we put all this weight
Mm-hmm.
into these titles of belonging to someone, or someone belongs to us. I'm theirs, they're mine, these are mine, I've become this. This is all these titles are mine. See all these things I got. We start to think that that's us. We should get all the things.
Mm-hmm.
We should make all the connections. We should definitely love openly with all the people that we're connected with. We should do all of that. Mm-hmm. We should own them. They should own us loosely and freely. You know what I mean? Not really, but claim them and love them and cherish them, but not in a way that ever makes us feel like that's who we are.
Yep. And so think about how he took on the role as failure in the movie. Mm-hmm. He took that role and he claimed it.
Mm-hmm. And it was his very countenance.
And it just exuded in every area of his life, even to the point where he pushed his daughter away. And
I heard him say, when they came to take what he had made into a pawn shop, they said, you know, you got to have your rent or that's it. And he was like, you'll take everything. And I'm thinking, you don't have nothing. What you got? You know what I mean? What do you have left? You have given everything up. You have allowed everything to float away from you. What do you have that you're so concerned? When you say everything, you know, the love that you had is gone.
Gone.
Your will to do your passion, you've let that go. What do you really have? This little pawn shop? I was like, what's he talking about? He don't have nothing.
Yeah, and you know, and even the little boy who was sweeping, all of them could see who he was, but he just couldn't see it for himself.
Right, he could not see it. He could not see it. And not only, it's almost like, again, I was listening to Reverend Knight, heard this sermon twice, where he was saying a person takes on a sick identity. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the way that Geronimus took on a sick identity. Yes, even though it wasn't sick in physical illness, it was sick in that I'm not nothing no more. I don't do nothing. And you know, and that's kind of sometimes when we take on that identity of illness, we ruminate and we circulate in our mind over and over again. Well, you know, I got herpes, and so therefore I can't get a mate. And they say when you know, then I can't, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, I got diabetes. Yeah. They, you know, eventually they gonna take off a toe.
Right. Yeah. You know, like no.
So I can't do this because I got diabetes, my sugar. I can't do that. You know, I hear people say, you know, I can't walk because I can't, you know, walk in terms of exercise down the block because I'm sick. You know, we'll just use an identity for anything.
Yeah, for anything.
You saw Geronimus doing a lot of that. I'm not an inventor anymore.
Right. A negative identity. Yeah.
And that's what you see people literally arguing very hard, the point that I'm not healthy. I can't do it, you know, or I'm depressed or whatever. You know,
have you thought about how many of those negative identities people have dropped now because of COVID?
Tell me what you mean.
Because like when you think about it, when COVID first started, most people were like, oh my God, my job, I don't have it, this, that, and the other, right? But then they started getting those nice unemployment checks with the extra money. And it was like, oh, you kind of almost paying me to stay home. Mm-hmm. And then they started seeing life different again. Mm-hmm. Now, it's kind of switched again where people have gotten a little too stir crazy and now they're forgetting that this disease is still out there. Mm-hmm. But when you think about it, how many, like COVID, what is the spiritual reason for it? And I am almost but certain that there were so many people saying, I hate that job.
Right.
There were so many people like
crying out.
Yeah, like living in that negative identity that they no longer need to live in. It's like, what are you here for? Figure it out. Let's go.
We definitely brought this on because there was, I mean, I've said this story before. The week before a lockdown, it was about 5 people came to me just in passing. I hate my job. I got to get out of there. Sick of them. Can't take it no more. Gotta go. I gotta find something else. And COVID happened, and they just, all those same people just didn't have anywhere to go anymore. Mm-hmm. And they felt good. And that's another reason why COVID is lingering too. Mm-hmm. Because people are feeling good with this new normal. But the reason why they're not going back to regular, or if they're whatever that is because there's still a lot of people who haven't made a decision about what's next. Mm-hmm. And they need to. Mm-hmm. They're still in the I'm on a break mode. There's lots of people who have said, I was on a break and I'm using this to do X, Y, and Z. I got this going on. I'm going that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Yeah. Lots of people are doing that. There's still a lot of people who are just like, I don't know what's next. I don't want to go back to rushing in traffic. I don't want to go back to being in the office. I don't want to go back to all of that. But I don't know what I want to. But I'm not being obedient.
Yeah, I was when you was going to say, but I don't want. No, I was going to say, no. They do know.
But I'm
they
not
do know.
Being
yes,
obedient.
They do know.
What
they know
to the assignment. I haven't said yes to the assignment
because they think they have to know the how. Mm-hmm. When they need to just make the decision first.
Right.
I'm doing it.
And
then all of the steps start showing up. All the pieces start showing up.
That's right. It took me 2 years when I was transitioning from being Seventh-day Adventist to metaphysical. It took me 2 years to do it. I stopped going to the Seventh-day Adventist church. I made that decision. I don't want to do that no more. And I remember my mother saying to me, well, when you figure out what you're going to do, let me know, because she's Seventh-day Adventist. I said, well, I don't know what I want to be, but I don't want to do that. So I just wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't go anywhere. I was reading the Yanla. That's before she was fixing lives. Mm-hmm. I was reading a lot of Yanla. And I was in graduate school, and people used to keep telling me about my church, Hillside. And Yanla was there speaking.
Yeah, a couple times, right?
It was her church. That's actually her church, too. I didn't know. Oh. At the time, I didn't know that, but that's where she got her ministerial license. And she and Dr. Barber are very good friends. As a matter of fact, she announced Dr. Barber's passing.
Yes.
And,
I remember that.
Yeah, so she was there speaking, and I went up there. I was pregnant. This was 20 years ago. I was pregnant with my daughter. I went up there, took my sister to go, and she ended up having to go to the hospital. They took her out in an ambulance, my sister.
Wow.
And that church came to visit her, sent her cards, called to see how she was doing. And that was the impetus to finally make me say, I'm doing it. This is where I'm going. Because you know, you might not know anything about Seventh-day Adventists, but we go to church, they go to church on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And so they're very against going to church on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So for me to, even though I had heard about Hillside and everything, I knew it was a Sunday church. So that was a big, big, big step. To say, I'm not going on I'm not keeping the Sabbath anymore. I'm going on Sunday. Mm. That was blasphemy.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like it's more acceptable for you just not to go anywhere, be a backslider, but
to go on Sunday.
Go on Sunday, and now for me to be a minister in that same. See, that was part of my hit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not only it was all these things wrapped up in there. Like even when I was growing up as a Seventh-day Adventist, I wasn't allowed, like we didn't call ministers reverend. We called them pastors. Only Jesus, only God was reverend. So for me to then be a reverend, that was all wrapped up into my head. All the things. All of
those beliefs. Wow.
All of those things. Yeah. So it's a journey. So I'm saying all this to say, if you hear us talking about that, you are not being obedient to your assignment, don't take offense and think that we don't know anything about that.
Oh yeah, because like
you know what I mean?
This whole year for me, I mean, my goodness.
Like, there's a lot. It's a constant. Yeah, it's a constant checking in, connecting with spirit, and then saying yes to the assignment. So I'm just to anyone who's listening or watching, I'm just saying, if you feel stagnant, if you feel uninspired, if you feel stuck, if you feel bored, you need to go back and check your homework, check your assignment book, and see what you are supposed to be doing, and do one little thing today to do it, because you can. You can do one little thing, and that, because a lot of times that's what gets us overwhelmed too, is thinking that we have to do the whole. When we get like I said, I got a vision 4 or 5 years ago that I'm going to be doing a conference with Tina Brinkley Potts. Now I could have went right off to the wall and just, hey girl, you're going to be working with me. We're going to do this. I seen it. The Lord them told me it's going down. And she would have been like, girl, what? I don't even know you. I met you. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and I mean, like, oh my gosh, because I can tell you, and like I can tell you that this whole thing about really speaking on Black oppression has been with me probably now for 10 years.
Wow.
And I've been putting it off, going, nah, I'm not doing that. Like, Black folks is vicious when you start showing them themselves. Why would I want to do that to myself? Like, that was my version. It is no longer my version. My version is because, I mean, like, I know that I can, like I was just telling you where you were talking about the person in your vegan group. Say what you wanna. I know who I play for, so I don't need you to accept it. Like, now it's a whole different game. And when we were talking, the moment was when we were in your group, and we were doing one of these, and we were talking about, I don't know, it could have been this pandemic. I don't even remember what we were talking about. And I heard myself, somebody asked a question, and I heard myself going, no, because they were like, well, you guys should do this in public. And I was like, no, why would I want to do that to myself?
Yes.
And after we got off, I literally had to sit down because, Brooke, I give nothing power nor dominion over me. Yeah. And so when I heard myself, those words replayed in my head over and over again, that I was like, no, why would I want to do that to myself? And as I kept replaying it, I was like, oh, I'm giving somebody else my power. So am I not doing this because I'm worrying about what other people are going to say? Because I don't live that life. So if that's what I'm doing, then I need to go ahead and it's time to start tackling this thing.
Time to look
and then when I was talking at that retreat and you inboxed me and you was like, listen, girl, you know you need to go ahead and do this. The only other thing that was like in my head is I don't like labels.
Yeah.
Like, the word reverend, right? Like all of these labels, I'm like, ugh, because again, we associate different meanings to these labels. But I can tell you, when I got over that, like, look at how, like, I haven't even been in that program but for whatever, and I'm already done with the Like I was done because
Lightning
I've been studying metaphysics for over almost 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So like that was done. Like all of these things, this whole keep thing, the rookie of the year, like all of these labels just keep falling into place.
Yes.
So that that stage is sitting there waiting. I've had people contacting me, asking me to come do different things. I've said no to a few of them for a few different reasons, but it's all like, all of it's kind of like falling into place, and I don't even really have to, I'm not doing the heavy lifting. The
thing of it is, because this whole, I'm with you with the labels. As many titles and education and degrees and all that stuff that I have, you would think, I'm real into,
like you said, they thought you was the secretary.
Yeah, you would think that I'm really into that, but I'm not. But another thing that I really, really understand as part of God's work is that you have to go high so that you can see where the need is. Mm-hmm. And the people who are in need, a lot of times they don't want to, they've been conditioned. It's where they are in their journey. That's it. They've been conditioned in their journey that that unless a person has X and Y amount of titles and letters and things like that, that they're not worthy to listen to. Mm-hmm. You don't have to take that on as though I am this now, I'm this. Yeah. But you also at the same time have to step into the leadership role and say, I acknowledge that if I'm going to help where the need is, then these people need certain things from me. That means they need me to curse less.
Right, yeah, right.
I mean, because this is what I grapple with that for years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I curse, but I don't have to do it when I'm serving. You know what I mean? If they need me to get the Reverend Dr. Brooke Brimm, then that's what I'm going to do to serve. Because if I'm just walking around Brooke Brimm, you might not be interested. But if you are conditioned that you need to hear it from Reverend Dr. Brooke Brimm, I'm going to be obedient to God and do what God told me to do. And that's what God told me to do. Even when I wrote that book, where is it? The little one. Love God Herself. Now that was a doozy. Because the name, that was a doozy that I didn't want to do this.
Right.
I didn't want to do this. I was trying to shirk my duties on this one. And I started writing another one about Ruth instead of this one. And I have the Ruth one about 85 to 90% written. And God said, I didn't tell you to do that. I told you to do this. Mm-hmm. Love God herself. But I was like, love God herself.
Oh my God. People gonna say.
Yeah, they gonna say, love God herself. And yoga and mindfulness for Black women who follow the Christ.
Yoga.
It's yoga and Christ and love God. I was scared.
Yoga.
Yeah, all of that in one title.
Wow.
But it's been a success, and I get so much positive feedback for it. And some of the things you're talking about, accountability that you're going to have to talk about to our people, and laying it on the line about the things you have to face. I had to do that in here. I was scared, but you just got to be obedient and do what you're called to do. And we can put it off as long as we want, but if you are really and connected with Source, which I know you are, it will just keep coming back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will not let you it will not let you rest.
Yeah, it doesn't. And it was funny because I had a speaking engagement this weekend, and I was telling a little bit about my story in the speaking engagement. I was talking about my mom and my mom being an alcoholic. And I remember and I don't even know why this came. It was like, okay, you need to tell this story. And so again, I'm obedient. I tell the story.
Mhm.
And right afterwards, it was a girl who was in the audience. Her brother was killed. And so she had took the role on for all of her siblings of being that maternal, because her mother had some kind of dependency too. I can't remember exactly what the dependency was, but then she took on the role of mothering her mother and taking care of all of the siblings. And she forgot to ask. She stopped asking because she had to be that strong person. So she got into this point in her life where she started making everybody else comfortable, but she wasn't doing anything to make herself comfortable anymore. And so now that she's trying to go into business for herself, I explained to her that she's taking that into her business, trying to make everybody else comfortable. I said, I need you to go and be uncomfortable with making everybody else uncomfortable from this point forward. Because you have what you have, and you have these experiences so that you can build on them, because that is part of the fabric of who you are. Now, I know that the world says being an alcoholic is wrong, doing this is wrong, that is wrong. Well, God brought you into that situation. That situation was God too. And so when you just start recognizing that and you start bringing all of yourself to the table, there's some people who are not going to be able to take that, but that's not your problem, because you got to know who you play for. And when you start playing, all of the rewards are going to come. You don't got to know how the blessings are going to come. All you have to do is step into the assignment, and it all just starts showing up.
That is so powerful what you're saying. My father was a substance abuser. What do you call it? Like a functioning addict of many things: alcohol, cocaine, whatever the season was, he was in it.
Whichever version, yeah.
Whatever. My whole life, he was addicted to something. And what it taught me, and he was the most wonderful person. Loving, kind. He was the only person who taught me to say, I love you. He said that to me.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing we said in our family, but my father always said that to me, and so he taught me to spread that into my mother's side of the family, and we all say it now. But then but what that experience taught me about people and what I bring into my work is that I accept people where they are, and whatever part of that journey is, I accept it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I have a very clear understanding of saying, okay, I get exactly where you are, and it's okay where you are.
And when the person accepts it, they can get the blessing from it,
and they
right?
We
talk about that.
Of it is when you are shrouded in shame and feeling ashamed, you cannot soar. You cannot tap into your purpose. You cannot walk on your path because you're so shame and guilt is an ego thing. You're not believing. You don't see the God in you. You don't see how you were made in the image of God. All you see is this earthly you and this non-God you, and that's all you focus on. And so when you have someone who can just accept you and say, when I say accept you, I accept where you are, but I might not accept all that bull crap.
Right.
I could tell you, be honest with you about it, but that doesn't mean you're not acceptable. I'm not going to throw you out. I very rarely throw people out. Now, the funny thing is with this vegan group, I have to block a lot of people because it's a lot of spam and a lot of things. And I have always been of the position of not blocking people, put them at arm's length, because one day they might come around, but it's just too big. This is a new lesson that I'm learning, that some people just have to be blocked. And it's okay, because they go about their way doing it in another group and never even paying attention to you, especially if you get to block them early. Like some people, they enter the group, they've been in there 2 hours. They kicking down your door. They insulting everybody, throwing rocks and spitting on people. And then
because that was their intention for today. They need to release that frustration on somebody. So they got to find a home for it.
Yes. And so when you throw them out and block them, they don't even notice they've been blocked.
Yeah.
Because they came in the door, they said it before. Never let Mike McIntyre.
We done got you rapping. Okay. Yeah.
All right, it's 9:09. We need to there was something in this journey, in my journal. Okay. I want to read it because it's related to what we've been talking about.
Okay.
Your power lies in taking the time to hear God and then to follow whatever path that leads you along. Only you and God know that path. Are you listening for God? Are you saying yes to what you hear? Are you obediently walking the path that you and God have created? Now I'm going to tell you, that is spirit, because that last line, I did not know it was there. I just read the couple. When I picked this out, I just quickly read the couple things that I didn't see that last one about obediently walking that path that you and God have created.
Yes.
That is a very important thing to know, that it's not just, a lot of times people say, I'm going to do God's work and God's will. You are creating that will and that work along with God.
Yes, you are.
If you feel it, that I want to paint, don't think it's frivolous because somebody else told you you need to be out going door to door with pamphlets talking about God. Know that painting is a worship, and also is a what's the word? Not the other one. The offering. It's an offering and a worship as well. Never discount the path that you and God are creating. That's so important. It's too many people who are so indoctrinated in all these religious things and believing all the things that religion tells you need to do to be godly, and then they discount that you just want to be a donut maker, and that is blessing people. The lady who bakes my cakes, for every occasion, she blesses us immensely with those cakes. The ladies who come in here and clean my house every 2 weeks on Thursday, they just left today. They come in here, they don't say nothing. They don't have no judgments. They just come
get
in,
it done,
clean it, and they out of here. That's a blessing.
It's a blessing. Yes.
That's a blessing to me, because I don't have to feel no guilt about, the condition of my house or whatever. They just come in and out of there.
And out. That's right. That's right.
And that's a blessing. So you cannot discount whatever it is that is your thing that you feel good about. And you can tell those ladies who clean my house, if they're not passionate about it, they at least are honest and true. You know what I mean? They're not bull jiving around like some people do. They take on a job and then they bull jive around. These ladies are honest and true. So whatever the thing that you're passionate about, don't discount it and say that it's not big enough because it's not like Oprah, or, it's blah, blah. It's not a book. You didn't write. You didn't do this. You didn't. It's, if you clean somebody's house, if you sat with them, you made them soup, and you do your thing consistently, you knitted something, you beading, whatever. It's a blessing. And it's also keeping you from being a busybody and starting having to dump negative energy and start trouble because you're doing something that feels good to your soul. It's because creative expression is very important, because if you're not expressing, you're depressing or you're projecting.
Yeah, because how much of it is, how much of what you think is God is somebody else's belief system that's helping you, that's actually causing you to ignore God speaking to you, because at some point in time you feel the inkling, you're getting the downloads, and you're hearing it, and you're hearing it clear, but it goes directly against what somebody else told you is God.
That's right.
And as sure as you're sitting here watching this video, you are going to face that in something.
That's right.
Because it doesn't make them wrong. It was from their limited beliefs. Somebody else fed them that.
That's right.
But you don't gotta own it.
That's right. That's what again, being a
you can return to sender.
I grew up saying with the belief system, we can't wear jewelry. I'm a jewelry designer. I bless women with jewelry that I make all the time. Now just imagine if I had stayed with that.
Wow, you wouldn't even be that creative expression. You wouldn't even be doing that.
Who love my jewelry. They feel blessed by it. They feel proud. That's a blessing.
Wow.
But that was my belief system. I grew up, you can't wear jewelry.
Wow.
So see, that's exactly the point of what you just said. Somebody else's belief system, and I was given that from birth. My grandmother was a Seventh-day Adventist for 50 years. She had my mother, you know what I mean? That was just something that was, here you go. This is what we are.
This is what we are. Wow.
This is what we are.
And so, I mean, and we've talked about this before. I mean, so think of all of the things that have been passed down from one generation to the other that is keeping the oppression going.
Yes. We don't swim. We don't eat vegetables. We don't drink water. We
don't look them in the eye.
Yeah, exactly. All of the things. We don't tell the right hand what the left hand is doing.
Look, all of it.
All the things. So many things. We don't tell our business. You know, you support, that's your brother. I don't care what he did. You defend your brother. Your brother's a murderer or rapist. He done raped you. You know, but you still supposed to, above all, put family first. You know, it goes on and on.
Never heals. It never heals that way. Yeah,
because you're getting these conflicting messages about what we do, who we are, what we're supposed to do, and you're trying to give that, we whoop ass, whoop their ass, you know.
Oh, we talked about that too. Yeah. And
then we wonder why it's violence in the streets and why these kids want to handle everything with violence. Because we refuse to release this idea that everything has to be handled with violence.
Right.
From a little baby, that's violence.
Yeah.
And we have to grow past it. When your heart is convicted to do better, do better.
Yep.
Anyway, you got
to start following your heart.
That's right. Obedience. That's on me all day. I'm going to go to Instagram right there.
Right. Yeah. Right. You got to go to Instagram when you hang up.
And the thing of it is, now that I think of it, it might not have been for Instagram. It could have been. I'm going to write it on Instagram, but it might have been
could have
just
been for this.
Yeah, it's been on me all day, but it might have been just for this. But I'm also going to put it on Instagram.
Okay, wait a minute. So since obedience was the theme that was on your heart for today, what was the biggest thing of obedience that you saw in the movie?
Well, he finally was obedient when he decided to put the little doll back together that was all broken up at the end. He finally became obedient with that. And he also was submitted to obedience when his granddaughter said, "You just got to believe."
Yes.
And he decided to believe. So that was obedience, because he could have still been pulling and pushing against the belief. And finally he submitted to the idea that he needed to believe like a child, as Jesus say, like a child.
The wonder of a child.
Yes.
The little boy, the little boy, when they were riding on the thing, remember, he becomes obedient and he sticks into his belief. That's how they get out. Remember the little boy and the little girl, right?
Yes.
Right? Yes. The woman, she keeps going back and forth to him. She stays.
The daughter. The daughter,
daughter.
she could have said, I don't care if he did right, you're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she could have.
And she raised her daughter in his way.
Yes.
Because she knew it was good.
Yes.
Even though he ended up pushing her away.
Yeah.
So she was obedient too.
Yeah, and she submitted to the idea, and this is big, Black people, Black women. I'm going to say this is huge, Black women. She submitted to the idea that it could possibly work again.
Could possibly work again.
And I see so many Black women over and over again, not reaching for healing, but just repeating, it can't, no, they done did that, that's it, it's over. I'm never gonna, they dead to me, I ain't gonna never see them again. I don't fool with them. I don't fool with them no more. And it cuts you off. It blocks you in. It makes you stagnant. To cut off the possibility that you could love this person again, that you could love another person again, that just to open your heart. Like, okay, I'm gonna give you an example. And this I'm 100% good with. I got this book about the date of your birthday and the people who are your love and friendships and your soulmate and your difficult relationships and all this. And I was looking at some of the dates in the book. And some of the people were people that I'm not dealing with right now, like that, but they were significant in my life. And I went to my Dr. Barbara's funeral, and I noticed that she had all these quality people in her life for years. And I was like, I'll be letting people go sometimes. I don't always keep them around. I need to check myself on that. Let me just double back and just make sure. That really impressed my heart. I was like, let me just double back and make sure. And I looked at my book, and the book had the dates of some of the people. And I was like, yeah, look, this one, I'm supposed to double back. So I learned two things. I double back on one person, and we are not like, speaking and all that, but we did come to a reconciliation.
Good.
Where we both acknowledged and appreciated each other for what we offered in each other's lives. Mm-hmm. Another person that I have not wanted to deal with, but I said I'm still going to double back to be sure. And I double back and I got no response, and I'm good with that. But I wanted to make sure that I double back, not double back to go back into the same patterns and to do the same things, but double back to make sure to see if either one of us has grown, or if we should cross again. That's part of what I learned from my father being an alcoholic and a drug addict and all those things. You don't, always double check. Yeah. See where a person's growth is. I'm okay. I didn't think that what am I trying to say? I'm good either way, but I always want to stay open. I never want to close it all the way off and say that I know who you are, that who you were 2 years ago is who you are today. Right. Because I don't know that.
You don't know that.
And it doesn't, I'm also doesn't mean that I have to fall into people pleasing and try to make it like it was. You know what I mean? But I at least need to give you the respect to let me just check to see, are you good? I didn't hear nothing back. Hey, I'm just checking. I heard nothing. So that means the way you were 2 years ago, you still in that space. I'm good. And all I'm saying is that I hear this a lot in Black women, we get so hurt, and it ties back to things like abandonment from our fathers and things like that.
And I would ask, are you ready to heal it? Yes. Because if you don't want the cycle to repeat, then let's face it this time. Yes. Because there's something inside of you that's calling it. And now that is a hard thing for people to take, because a lot of times we this isn't about shame or guilt. It's about accountability.
Yes.
It's about understanding that you can vibrate stuff. You're sending something, you're pushing a call out into the world and somebody's answering it. So now let's figure that out. And I can tell you, like, when I got divorced at 38, I decided right then and there that, I'm going to take some me time because I'm not going to repeat this cycle.
Yes.
My ex was so much like my mother, and while I love my mother and I came to reconciliation with, because my mom was angry when she drank, she got angry. Okay. But like I reconciled all of that and I'm really good with it. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to call another of my ex into my life.
Right.
So I said, okay, what in me? And I'm okay with that, because when the things that I realized, especially with co-creating with my source, is it's all me. It's all me. And since it's all me, I'm going to do right by me.
Right.
And so that means that if I called somebody into my life who treats me like shit, then what in me was allowing it?
Right. And see, and that's what I really love. Ooh, that's what I love.
But then we're going to take it a step further. When you begin to master this, I can be in spaces where everybody would be like, hey, listen to me, you need to watch out for that one because this one does this and this one does this and this one does that. But never get that kind of response from that person ever, because I'm seeing them the way Source sees them. And so when you learn to have that energy about you, you can call the best out of people and never see that other side that other people say they see. And so, for those that are butting up against what you were just saying, I would want to offer it's time, whenever you're ready, it's time to start taking ownership and going, this isn't excusing their bad behavior. It is saying, I'm going to look at what was calling that behavior in my life and I'm going to upgrade.
Right. Because another thing is, if it is somebody can look at this, I think I was saying this earlier too. Somebody can look at the exact same situation and feel like, I saw that, but okay. You know what I mean? Yeah, I saw they did that, but yeah, and I even believe you that they were trying to do X, Y, and Z when they did it. But it just, okay, it doesn't bother me like that. That's because I'm not unhealed in that area.
Not unhealed in that
But for you, that's something that's got you unhealed. It's everybody has their own little thing, like some other thing that I'm not unhealed in, and we're constantly, it's like an onion. We're always discussing, I thought I was healed in that area. What? I'm not healed. I thought I was. We're constantly blooming and discovering that we have more work to do. And when it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
Yeah.
But when it's somebody else's thing, they go off. And then they feel more crazy because other people don't see it or they don't care as much. Yeah. That did happen. But don't you understand? Do you know what it means? It means that you need to work on your thing. You're unhealed in that area. Somebody pushed a little piece on you that hurt. You thought it was smoothed over, but it was pus in there and it was hurting and it's red underneath and they pushed it and you went crazy. It looked smooth. You covered it up with your degrees and your business suit. You covered it up with your car and your house. And then somebody comes along and pushes it and you find out you're raw. And
somebody, and it keeps getting pushed in all different kinds of ways, but you've just been used to covering it up.
You just add more and more things. More, I got my red bottoms. I got this, my this bag, my Telfar bag, my this, my that. You just keep covering it up with more and more things. But then this is why people have these crazy bosses. You're like, how do these people get to be the boss of people? Because they're throwing themselves into working very hard at doing the boss thing, but they're completely unhealed.
Yeah.
in terms of personalities, and then they're coming at you, and
Yep.
you know, they got all kind of hella issues, but they cover it up with work themselves to the top, and ruin whole companies with terrible culture because they're unhealed.
Yep.
But we really do need to go. We've been an hour and a half talking.
Yes. But that was a good word. I mean, your word was, that was a good one. That was a good one. Obedient. Good word for today.
That's been on my heart all day. And it just really did. That's it. Obedience. If you are feeling stagnant, jealous, bored, stuck, you need to go back to your notebook and say, what am I supposed to be obedient to? Mm-hmm. And then do one little thing that day. That's it. One little thing. And then God will start showing you the rest. Don't get overwhelmed with the bigness of it, because it could be pretty big, but just do one little thing. You might have heard Tina Brinkley Potts is going to do something with you, but you just take it slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be 10 years. You don't know. Just take it slow. No. Anyway, we're going to go. All right.
Awesome.
All right.
All right. See you later.
Bye-bye. Bye.